My name is Richard, and if you saw me walking down the street, you would probably notice two things about me immediately: my size and my wealth. I've always been overweight, and despite trying countless diets, workout programs, and even surgery consultations, nothing seemed to change that fact. I came to terms with my body years ago, and instead of chasing a figure I might never achieve, I poured myself into something else, building my empire. Today, I'm a millionaire. Not the kind of millionaire who brags on Instagram with rented cars and fake jewelry, but a man who started from nothing and built companies that thrive. I own several businesses, a chain of luxury restaurants, a handful of real estate investments, and a tech company that skyrocketed after I took a risk on a project no one else believed in. But here's the thing: while money can buy you homes, cars, vacations, and comfort, it cannot buy love. And if I'm being honest, that was the one thing I craved the most. For years I dreamed of coming home to a woman who truly saw me, who cared about Richard the person, not Richard the bank account. Yet, being wealthy and fat is a strange combination. People often see you as a walking wallet, someone they can manipulate for financial gain. And women, well, let's just say my dating life has been complicated. I've met women who acted like they adored me, only to discover later that they were only interested in my lifestyle. It left me cautious, skeptical, and sometimes even bitter. But everything changed when 3 women came into my life almost at the same time. Their names were Vanessa, Chloe, and Emily. At first it felt like fate was finally smiling at me, presenting me with options, with attention, with the possibility of love. But as I would later learn, not all attention is created equal. I first met Vanessa at one of my own restaurants. She was tall, glamorous, and carried herself like she was walking on a runway, even though she was just stepping through the front door of a steakhouse. She had long, dark hair, perfectly styled, and eyes that could pierce through a room. She recognized me instantly. "You're Richard, aren't you? The owner?" she asked with a smile that seemed both charming and calculating. "Yes, that's me," I replied, trying to sound casual. From that moment on, Vanessa poured on the charm. She laughed at my jokes, even the ones that weren't funny. She touched my arm often, leaned in close when I spoke, and complimented me endlessly. "You're so smart, Richard. You've built such an empire. It must be amazing to be as successful as you are." I won't lie, part of me loved the attention. After years of rejection and whispers about my size, having a woman like Vanessa look at me with admiration, or at least the appearance of it, was intoxicating. But even on that first night, I noticed her eyes drift often, not at me, but at the Rolex on my wrist, the valet bringing me my Rolls-Royce outside, and the premium wine I ordered without glancing at the price. Something in my gut told me she was more interested in my world than in me. Still, I kept seeing her, curious if my instincts were wrong. Chloe entered my life a few weeks later at a charity gala. She was the life of the party, laughing loudly, surrounded by people wherever she went. Blonde, with a sparkling dress and a voice that demanded attention, Chloe was the kind of woman everyone noticed. She approached me boldly, drink in hand, and said, "So, you're the famous Richard, the man with the golden touch." I chuckled awkwardly. "I don't know about golden, but I've worked hard." Chloe leaned in. "Work hard, play harder, right?" That set the tone for Chloe. She loved the parties, the expensive dinners, the shopping sprees. When we went out, she would always gravitate toward the most luxurious option. The most expensive champagne, the finest jewelry, the most extravagant vacation destinations. She often said things like, "Richard, a man like you deserves to be seen in the best places, with the best company. That's why I'm here, to make sure you're never alone." It sounded flattering, but there was something hollow about it. She never asked about my childhood, my fears, or my dreams. Instead, conversations always circled back to status and image. Chloe wasn't interested in me as a person. She was interested in the lifestyle I provided. And then there was Emily. I met her in the most unexpected way. One evening, after a long day at the office, I stopped by a small bookstore downtown. I've always loved reading, even if it surprises people. Business biographies, history, philosophy, they keep me grounded. Emily was the cashier. She had kind eyes, a warm smile, and a quiet presence that immediately calmed me. Unlike Vanessa and Chloe, she didn't seem dazzled by me at all. In fact, I'm not even sure she knew who I was at first. "Do you read often?" she asked as she rang up my books. "Yes," I replied. "It's one of the few ways I escape the chaos of business." She smiled. "I always say books are windows to lives we might never live." That was the start of something different. Emily didn't fawn over my wealth or my status. She didn't ask about my cars, my houses, or my investments. Instead, she asked about me, my favorite authors, what I enjoyed doing outside of work, what made me laugh. She had this way of making me feel like Richard the man, not Richard the millionaire. We began seeing each other casually. Coffee dates, quiet walks, simple dinners. And unlike with Vanessa and Chloe, I never felt like I was being evaluated for what I could provide. With Emily, I could breathe. As the weeks went by, I found myself caught in a strange web. On one hand, Vanessa and Chloe offered me excitement, glamour, and the kind of attention I had always thought I wanted. But their interest often felt superficial, tethered more to my wealth than my heart. On the other hand, Emily was simple, genuine, and kind. She didn't come from money. She didn't dress in designer clothes. And she didn't seem to care about the circles I moved in. She cared about me. But here was the problem. When you've been rejected your entire life for being overweight, it's hard to believe someone could love you without conditions. Part of me kept thinking, what if Emily is pretending too? What if I'm just setting myself up for heartbreak? And yet, there was something about her that felt so real, so different. That was the beginning of my dilemma. 3 women, 3 possible futures, and one heart that desperately wanted to find love, but was terrified of being deceived again. It didn't take long before I realized I was living in 2 different realities. When I was with Vanessa and Chloe, I felt like I was in some kind of movie. Fancy dinners, laughter that sometimes felt forced, nights filled with glitz and glamour. They made me feel like a king, yes, but a king in a glass palace, one that could shatter the moment the money disappeared. When I was with Emily, it was different. She made me feel human, not like some character playing a role. With her, I could sit in a small cafe, eat a simple meal, and laugh about something completely silly. There was no performance, no mask. And yet, my doubts kept creeping in. After years of rejection for being overweight, I had developed a defense mechanism. I questioned everything. I always asked myself, does she like me or does she like what I give her? The doubts became overwhelming, so I decided I needed answers. If I wanted to find real love, I had to see who would stand by me if everything else disappeared. The first test was subtle. I invited each woman separately to dinner, but not at my restaurants or at 5-star places. Instead, I chose a small diner near my old neighborhood, the kind of place where I used to eat when I had nothing but dreams and a pocket full of coins. I started with Vanessa. When she walked into the diner, her heels clicked against the cheap tiled floor, and her nose wrinkled at the smell of fried food. "Richard, darling," she said, forcing a smile. "What is this place?" "It's one of my favorites," I explained. "I've been coming here since I was young." She looked around, her eyes scanning the cracked leather booths and neon lights. "Don't you think we should go somewhere nicer? You deserve better than this." I nodded but said nothing. The waitress came and handed us menus. Vanessa didn't even touch hers. "They don't have oysters here, do they?" she asked sarcastically. The rest of the evening was stiff. She barely touched her food, kept glancing at her phone, and made excuses to leave early. As she kissed me goodbye, she whispered, "Next time let's do something and more fitting for us." Her reaction confirmed my suspicions. Next was Chloe. She entered the diner like it was a stage, and she was the star. "Oh, Richard, what a quirky place," she said, her voice a little too high-pitched. At first she seemed amused by the simplicity, but as the night went on, her patience wore thin. She scrolled through her phone between bites, posting pictures with captions like, "Keeping it real tonight." "Richard," she said halfway through, "this was fun. But you know, people like us don't belong in places like this. You should let me take you somewhere more worthy." I smiled politely, but inside I was disappointed. She didn't get it either. Finally, I brought Emily. When she walked in, her face lit up. "Oh, wow. "This place has so much character," she said. She slid into the booth and picked up the menu with genuine interest. I love diners. They're cozy and real. We ordered burgers and fries, and Emily chatted with the waitress like they were old friends. She didn't care that the plates were chipped or that the table wobbled slightly. All she cared about was being there with me. When I apologized for the simplicity, she looked me straight in the eye and said, "Richard, I don't care where we are, as long as I'm with you." That night, I felt a weight lift off my chest. The diner experiment gave me clarity, but I wasn't done. I needed to push further to see what would happen if my wealth disappeared. So one evening, while sitting with Vanessa in my penthouse, I casually mentioned, "You know, business has been tough lately. I might have to cut back on a few things." Her eyes widened. "Cut back? What do you mean?" "I mean, no more expensive trips for a while. Maybe even selling the Rolls-Royce." She froze, her smile faltering. "But, Richard, you've worked so hard. You deserve the finer things. Why give them up?" "I just think it's time to live more simply," I said. Her hand slipped from mine. The rest of the night, she was distant, checking her phone, avoiding the subject. When she left, she didn't kiss me the way she usually did. It was colder, calculated. With Chloe, I tried the same approach during dinner at a rooftop bar. "I think I'm going to invest less in luxuries and focus on rebuilding some smaller businesses," I said. She laughed nervously. "You? Living small?" "Oh, Richard, don't joke like that. I'm serious," I insisted. "What if I lost it all tomorrow? Would you still want to be with me?" Chloe blinked, then forced a laugh again. "Of course I would, but come on, that'll never happen. You're too successful." The way she brushed it off told me everything. She wasn't in it for me. She was in it for the image, the lifestyle, the spotlight. When I told Emily, her reaction was completely different. We were walking through a park when I said, "Emily, what if one day I lost everything? The businesses, the cars, the money? What if it was just me and nothing else?" She stopped, looked at me seriously and said, "Richard, you'd still be you, and that's enough." I swallowed hard, emotions rising in my chest. "You really mean that?" "Of course," she said softly. "I don't care about your money, Richard. I care about you, the man who loves books, who laughs at silly jokes, who sometimes gets shy when he's not in a boardroom. That's the man I care about." Her words pierced through every insecurity I had built up over the years. Despite Emily's sincerity, part of me still hesitated. I had been betrayed before. I had been laughed at, ridiculed, and treated like a walking wallet. I didn't want to get hurt again. But the evidence was clear. Vanessa and Chloe were fascinated with my wealth, while Emily cared about me as a person. Still, fear gnawed at me. What if Emily was just smarter at hiding it? What if one day she revealed herself to be just like the others? I spent nights lying awake in my penthouse, staring at the ceiling, torn between the glamour of Vanessa and Chloe and the genuine warmth of Emily. That's when I decided I needed one final test. Something bold. Something undeniable. I knew the diner test had shown me a glimpse of the truth. I knew that pretending to lose my wealth had cracked open the surface of what Vanessa and Chloe really cared about. But deep down, the part of me that had been humiliated as a fat guy my whole life still whispered doubts. "What if you're wrong, Richard?" I asked myself late at night, staring into the city skyline from my penthouse window. What if Emily is just better at playing the game? It's hard to explain how scars from years of ridicule linger. I could still hear echoes of laughter from high school bullies, the mocking comments of girls who said they would never date a guy like me. I could still see the sneers from business rivals who underestimated me, thinking my weight meant weakness. Money had silenced some of those voices, but not the insecurities. So I decided to create one final test, an event that would strip everything down to the truth. Every year I host a large charity gala to support educational programs for underprivileged children. It's the kind of event that draws celebrities, politicians, and socialites. It's flashy, glamorous, and filled with cameras. This year, I knew it would serve another purpose. It would be the stage for my final test. I invited all three women, Vanessa, Chloe, and Emily. Each accepted without hesitation. For Vanessa and Chloe, it was the perfect setting to be seen, photographed, admired. For Emily, it was simply a chance to support something meaningful. On the night of the gala, I arrived early, dressed in a tailored tuxedo that hugged my large frame but made me feel confident. As guests began arriving, I noticed how differently each woman carried herself. Vanessa walked in like a queen, draped in designer silk, her eyes scanning the crowd for influential faces. Chloe arrived in a sparkling gown, loud and energetic, immediately attracting photographers with her dramatic poses. Emily came last, wearing a simple but elegant dress, her hair loosely styled, a soft smile on her lips. She looked real, genuine. Halfway through the evening, after the speeches and auctions, I took the stage. My heart pounded as I gripped the microphone, the lights glaring in my face. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, "thank you for being here tonight. Your generosity will change lives. But before we close this evening, I have something personal I need to share." The room went silent. All eyes turned to me. I could feel Vanessa's gaze drilling into me from the front row, Chloe's smile widening in anticipation, and Emily's calm, supportive presence. I took a deep breath. For many years, I've struggled with something most people don't see. On the outside, I may look like a successful businessman. I may have wealth, cars, and homes. But inside, I've always carried the weight of insecurity. I've always wondered if anyone could love me for who I truly am, and not for what I own. A murmur rippled through the audience. I continued. Recently, I found myself at a crossroads. 3 amazing women entered my life. Each of them showed me attention, companionship, and interest. But I needed to know the truth. Were they here for me, Richard the man, or Richard the millionaire? I paused, my eyes scanning the crowd. Vanessa and Chloe sat straighter, their smiles stiff, while Emily's expression remained gentle, steady. So I tested them, I admitted. I took them to simple places, stripped away the luxury, and even told them I might lose everything. Their reactions spoke louder than words ever could. The audience leaned in, captivated. I turned toward Vanessa first. "Vanessa, you're stunning and sophisticated. But when I took you to a humble diner, you couldn't hide your discomfort. You looked at me not as a man, but as a ticket to a lifestyle you craved. And when I spoke of living simply, your smile disappeared. It hurt to see, but it revealed the truth." Vanessa's face turned pale. She forced a smile and clapped politely, but her eyes burned with embarrassment. Next I looked at Chloe. "Chloe, you are vibrant and full of energy, but your world revolves around status, spotlight, and extravagance. When I asked if you would stand by me without all this, I gestured at the ballroom around us. You laughed it off. To you, my wealth is inseparable from my worth. And that's not love. It's performance." Chloe's smile faltered, her cheeks flushing red as whispers spread through the crowd. She shifted uncomfortably in her chair. Finally, I turned to Emily. My voice softened. And then there's Emily. She didn't care if the plates were chipped or the table wobbled. She laughed with me over burgers and fries. When I asked what would happen if I lost everything, she said I'd still be me. And that would be enough. The room fell silent. Emily's eyes glistened with tears, but she smiled, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. In a world where people often see me as a bank account or a body to mock, Emily saw me. Not the millionaire, not the fat man, but Richard, the person. And that's why tonight, in front of all of you, I want to make it clear. Emily is the woman I choose, the woman I love, the woman who truly loves me back. Applause erupted in the ballroom. Some stood to their feet, clapping and cheering. Emily looked stunned, her hand covering her mouth, tears streaming down her cheeks. Vanessa and Chloe. They didn't clap. Vanessa grabbed her clutch and stormed out, her heels echoing across the marble floor. Chloe stayed a little longer, her smile frozen, trying to save face in front of the cameras, but eventually she too disappeared into the night. Emily walked up to the stage, trembling. I took her hand, and she whispered, "Richard, are you sure?" I smiled, my voice breaking. I've never been more sure in my life. The audience roared as I kissed her hand, pulling her close. For the first time in years, I felt like I was enough, not because of my money, not because of my image, but because someone finally loved me for me. Later that night, after the gala ended and the crowd dispersed, Emily and I sat together in the back of my car. The city lights blurred past the window as silence wrapped around us. Finally, she spoke. "Richard, you didn't have to humiliate them like that." I nodded. "Maybe not, but I needed to be honest. With them, with myself, with everyone. I've hidden behind money for too long. Tonight I wanted to strip all of that away." She squeezed my hand gently. "You don't have to prove yourself to anyone, Richard. Not to the world, not to me. I see you. That's enough." Tears welled in my eyes. "You really mean that, don't you?" "Of course I do," she whispered. "I don't care about the empire you built. I care about the man sitting next to me in this car." In that moment, I knew I had finally found what I'd been searching for all my life. Not attention, not admiration, not envy, but love. Real, unconditional love. The days after the gala felt surreal. News outlets picked up the story, social media exploded with commentary, and my inbox flooded with both praise and criticism. Some called me cruel for publicly exposing Vanessa and Chloe. Others hailed me as courageous for standing up for myself and refusing to let deceit rule my personal life. But beyond the noise, beyond the headlines, the only thing that truly mattered was Emily. I woke up the next morning to the sound of birds outside my window and the warm sunlight spilling across the room. Emily was still asleep beside me, her hair tangled across the pillow, her breathing soft and steady. For the first time in decades, I didn't wake up with anxiety gnawing at my chest. I didn't feel the weight of proving myself to anyone. I reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. She stirred, smiled drowsily, and whispered, "Morning, morning," I said softly. "How are you?" She stretched, her smile widening. Still trying to believe last night was real. I chuckled. It was real. Every word, every moment. "You are the woman I choose." Her eyes glistened again and she nestled closer. "And I choose you, Richard. Always." Of course, not everything was sunshine. Vanessa's departure from the gala had sparked vicious rumors. Tabloids painted her as a victim, claiming I had humiliated her unfairly. Chloe tried to salvage her image by giving interviews, twisting the story, insisting she only wanted the best for me. At first it bothered me. I hated being portrayed as the villain. But Emily reminded me, "Richard, you don't owe explanations to people who were never in your corner. You told your truth, that's enough." And she was right. For years I'd tried to buy validation, through business success, luxury, appearances. But real peace didn't come from headlines or applause. It came from knowing that at least one person truly saw me, truly loved me, without conditions. Over the following months, Emily and I grew closer in ways I never imagined possible. We traveled, but not to the glamorous resorts Vanessa once demanded, or the exclusive clubs Chloe loved. Instead, we went to small towns, local festivals, quiet beaches. I watched Emily laugh with strangers, play with children, dance barefoot in the sand. She didn't need luxury to be happy, and being with her made me realize I didn't need it either. At home, she encouraged me to focus on my health, not for appearance, not for status, but for myself. We began cooking together, walking in the mornings, even trying yoga classes where I was hilariously clumsy. She never judged me. She never pressured me. She simply stood by my side, reminding me that I deserved to feel good in my own skin. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the fat guy trying to be more. I felt like Richard, the man, the partner, the human being worthy of love. One evening, nearly a year after the gala, I decided to take a leap I'd been dreaming about. I invited Emily back to the same small diner where I had first tested her months before. The same worn booths, the same checkered floor, the same flickering neon sign outside. This time there was no disguise, no test, no pretense. Just me, nervous and hopeful. As we finished our meal, I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. My hands trembled as I placed it on the table. "Emily," I said, my voice shaking, "this diner was where I learned the truth. It was where I saw, for the first time, that someone could love me without all the wealth and luxury. You taught me that. You showed me that I am enough. And because of that, I can't imagine spending another day without you. Will you marry me?" Her hands flew to her mouth, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Richard," she whispered. Yes. 1,000 times yes. The diner erupted in cheers from strangers who had overheard, clapping and congratulating us. And in that tiny, ordinary place, I felt more joy than I had in any mansion or gala. Our wedding was nothing like the extravagant affairs Vanessa or Chloe might have demanded. It wasn't dripping in diamonds or lined with celebrities. Instead, it was intimate, surrounded by family, close friends, and the people who had supported us from the beginning. Emily walked down the aisle in a simple lace dress, her smile radiant. I stood waiting, my tuxedo snug but comfortable, my heart thundering. When she reached me, I whispered, "You are my everything." And she whispered back, "And you are mine." We exchanged vows that were raw and real, not promises of riches or status, but promises of loyalty, laughter, patience, and love. When I kissed her, the world seemed to stop. For once, I wasn't the fat guy people mocked, or the millionaire people envied. I was just a man in love, finally seen, finally enough. Looking back now, I realize how far I've come. For so long, I believed my worth was tied to how others saw me, whether they mocked me for my body or admired me for my money. I chased validation, desperate to fill the emptiness inside. But love, real love, doesn't measure worth by appearance or wealth. Love sees the soul. Love stands by you when the lights fade, when the money disappears, when the world turns its back. Emily taught me that. She showed me that even if I lost everything tomorrow, I would still have something priceless. Her. And maybe, just maybe, I've learned to love myself too. If you're watching this, maybe you've felt what I once felt. Maybe you've been mocked for your appearance, dismissed for your weight, ignored for not fitting into society's mold. Or maybe you've wondered if people in your life are there for who you are or for what you can give them. Let me tell you this, you are enough. Right now, as you are. The right people will see you, love you, and stand by you. Not because of your body, not because of your money, not because of what you can offer them, but because of your heart. Don't settle for anything less. Don't let the world convince you that you have to buy love, prove yourself, or beg for acceptance. The ones who truly matter will never make you feel like you're not enough. Thank you for listening to my story. If it touched you, if it reminded you of your own journey, or if you believe in the power of real love beyond appearances and wealth, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and subscribe to this channel, Emotional Life Tales, for more true stories that inspire, heal, and remind us of what truly matters. And remember, love yourself first, because when you do, the right person will love you too.